Ghost of Tsushima is one of my favorite games, giving us a near-perfect blend of combat, story, and world building. And with Ghost of Yotei around the corner, I wanted to make a video on the samurai who brought it all together, Jin Sakai. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy. It's often said that you lead the life you live. But how true is that when many of us are born with expectations we never asked for? Milestones set for us before even taking our first step. A way of thinking before speaking our first words. Whether it's through religion, tradition, or a family's moral code, we're expected to preserve and pass it on without question, even when we don't fully understand why. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that, because those values we grow up with make us who we are. For all of us are born as a blank slate, whose lives will paint a portrait for others to look upon in admiration or criticism. And Jin is no different, as he was raised to be a samurai and following the Bushido, a strict and rigid code of loyalty, duty, courage, self-control, and above everything else, honor. Of course, that's an oversimplification, but it was a lifestyle they lived and died by. And as someone who was raised on these principles, Jin held them close to his heart until it became part of him for all to see, keeping his faith in the samurai code as sharp as the blade he wields. Like many of us, we all need something to believe in, to give us the strength to keep pushing forward when the road ahead is filled with hardship. This is especially true for Jin when he was paralyzed with fear, as he was forced to watch his father be struck down in cold blood when he was only a child. Something he's ashamed of well into his adulthood. So when his uncle, Lord Shimura, the only family he had left, teaches him what it means to be a samurai, that code is more important to him than his own life. And it's never more clear than during the opening cutscene on the beach.
The Mongol Empire is invading our home. They are brutal, relentless, unstoppable. We are 80 samurai against an army, fighting to slow the invasion. Today, I die for my people.
Notice how he says that they're trying to slow down the invasion, not stop it. He gladly accepted his death if it meant showing his loyalty to the shogun, fighting with courage against impossible odds in order to fulfill his duty as a warrior, and fighting with honor by not surrendering to the enemy. The samurai were a symbol of order and discipline. But what happens when that symbol of strength shatters in front of you? And though Jin would rather die than admit it, he saw the cracks forming when his fellow samurai, Lord Adachi, challenged Koten Khan to an honorable fight between two warriors, only to be cut down like an animal, treated no better than a pig to the slaughter.
I am Harunobu Adachi, descendant of the legendary Yoshinobu Adachi.
Of course, this was no random interaction between them. Later on in the story, Koten Khan tells Shimura that he studied the samurai before invading their shores, their lifestyle, their customs and culture, even learning their language, so he knew they were going to send one of their best warriors to face him in battle, because as he put it, their strict code makes them rigid. It makes them predictable. And without saying a single word, he exposed the many flaws of the samurai code, the message written in Lord Adachi's blood. And though they were meant to slow down the Mongolian invasion, they never came close to that goal, being struck down moments after charging into battle. But with his samurai brethren slaughtered and his uncle taken captive, Jin still challenges Koten Khan the moment he recovers. Whether that's bravery or foolishness, that's up to you to decide. But he's so convicted in his moral code, you can't help but admire his commitment. But just like Komada Beach, his efforts are met with failure, tossed off a bridge like common trash. And though he survived the fall, a part of him died that day. His ironclad faith in the samurai code, coming to terms that it won't be enough to protect his home and his people. And for a brief moment, we see what he's feeling as we're brought back to his childhood when he witnessed his father's death. That sense of helplessness, failing both his father and his uncle. At that point, Jin finally realizes it'll take more than samurai to take on the Mongols. And though he understands that now, he's yet to come to terms with it, even with the help of Yuna, his ally, who teaches him more effective ways of fighting through stealth and deception. And you can see it the first time he attacks from the shadows. The hesitation in his eyes, the awkwardness from his movements, and the sloppiness in execution. This is a warrior who can cut you down with a single strike, clean and confident. But in this very moment, he's nothing more than a child waving his weapon around with no sense of direction. This is a proud warrior who fights with honor and strength, looking his enemies in the eye when fighting them because there is still a level of respect towards them as an equal. Instead, he slits the man's throat and watches as the life drains from his body. Another part of Jin dies inside, because despite Jin being a warrior, he's never taken a life in such a brutal way. All his life, he was taught that cowards attack from the shadows, and here he is, losing what little honor he has left, a time where a person's honor was more important than their life. So this is traumatic for him, but he still goes through with it, despite the inner struggle forming. In a way, you can't help but sympathize with Jin. This is someone who dedicated his whole life to strict values and virtues, principles and beliefs that gave him the strength to do what he thought was right, only for that foundation to crumble under him and tossing him into a destructive sense of self-doubt. To question his code is to question his life, his way of being, his purpose in this unpredictable state of peril. Because if he is not a samurai, then who is he? A shameless coward pretending to be something he's not? Someone who abandons his values at the first sign of danger beyond his comprehension? No. Jin Sakai is someone who is able to see the bigger picture, looking for solutions to issues their blades can't reach, and their traditions don't understand. Where most men would have broke down, Jin focused on the reason why he became a samurai in the first place, to protect the people of Iki Island. And despite being a warrior from feudal Japan, Jin's inner struggle resonates with many of us today. That sense of turmoil we feel deep down when not living up to the expectations set before us. That familiar feeling of failure whenever we disappoint ourselves or those around us. We can't help but feel that way, because it's human nature, something that transcends beyond time and history. But like Jin, whenever we don't live up to certain expectations, we need to work twice as hard to go above and beyond, to exceed whatever you thought was impossible, even if it forces you to break away from what you're used to. Unfortunately, you'll have people who will criticize you for it, much like Lord Shimura. The lives he took and the methods he used, diving headfirst into the darkest depths of dishonor and deception, Jin did everything in his power to save his uncle. And despite his gratitude to Jin, Shimura can't hide his disappointment in the warrior his nephew has now become. Even when witnessing how effective his methods are against the Mongols, how many people are unified under Jin's leadership, and the countless lives being saved, the stern samurai still belittles and dismisses Jin's path because it's not the right way. Blinded by traditions, Shimura can't see past his shortcomings and focus on the most important task, to protect their home by any means necessary. His honor is more important to him than the men, women, and children he swore to protect. By then, it's no longer about honor, but an ego-driven path to self-destruction. As long as he achieves his goals the traditional way, the lives lost are just a means to an end. And his way of thinking is further shown here.
The Mongols are on the defensive. We will strike before they regroup and end this war tomorrow.
You sent our men to die.
They are soldiers.
Their blood is on our hands. I can find a way past the bridge. Poison the enemy.
An act of terror.
I am trying to save our people.
By teaching them to fear us. If you continue down this path, you will be no better than the Mongols. I trained you to fight with honor.
Honor died on the beach. The Khan deserves to suffer.
You are ruled by your emotion.
I sacrificed everything I knew to save our people. I gave them hope. You did nothing!
No. We're finished.
That's not to say that Shimura is a bad person, but someone who blindly follows traditions and customs because that's all he knows. And like Yuna said to Jin, he forgot what it's like to fight someone stronger than him. From his experience, Shimura never had to doubt the samurai code because it always worked for him in the past. But unlike Jin, he refuses to adapt during a time that requires change. At some point, we all have to question our traditions, customs, beliefs, or life choices. I'm a devout Christian who takes pride in his religious roots. Being raised in the church, I try my best to follow Jesus' example of love and compassion. Of course, some days are better than others, but I love God the way a son loves his father. With that said, that doesn't keep me from questioning the Christian doctrine. That doesn't stop me from seeing the many flaws of my faith, and acknowledging that many things we're taught don't always make sense. As a child, whenever I questioned our Sunday lessons, I often got reprimanded and scolded by the church elders, because to them, to question God was to renounce him altogether. Which was far from true, but asking questions and challenging our customs is key to evolving as a society. But for those who are afraid of change are doomed to repeat the same mistakes as those before them, while the world leaves them behind as old relics of the past. Of course, that's not to belittle the importance of traditions, especially when they connect us together as a community. Growing up, my grandmother would gather my siblings, cousins, and I to help her bake desserts during family events. That was her way of forming bonds with each other, because we all know that food brings people together. And though we can never bake as good as she could, it's a tradition we continue long after she's passed away. A bittersweet legacy we hope to pass along to the next generation to honor her. And like Jin and Shimura's samurai code, it upholds principles worth passing on. But it comes a time when certain traditions have to be bent, if not broken. Unfortunately, Lord Shimura fails to acknowledge that inevitable truth, costing him not only the lives of his men, but the bond he shares with his nephew. The same man who would sacrifice everything, even his honor, in order to save his uncle. The man who will become a demon in the eyes of everyone so his uncle could lead the charge as their beacon of hope, the way the samurai were meant to be. And despite all of that, he turns his back on Jin in favor of his own hubris. Ironically, it was Shimura's training that gave Jin the strength and iron will to do what needed to be done, eventually striking down the Khoten Khan. Having liberated Iki Island of the Mongols, Jin saved the lives of countless people and gave them hope for the future. But at the cost of his home, his clan, and his legacy, forever branded a traitor to the shogun and everything the samurai stand for. Stripped of everything but the blade he carries, Jin would do it all again if it meant saving those he swore to protect. Jin's journey is such an interesting story that resonates with us, regardless of our background, because we all have moments of doubt that forces us to question our beliefs, deep-rooted in our character. And it's never easy, because to question the beliefs that make us who we are is to question life itself and our place in a world of uncertainty. But like Jin Sakai, we have the ability to question, to adapt, and to succeed in whatever we pursue, regardless of how difficult it is on the road ahead. To me, perfection is impossible. But in my eyes, Ghost of Tsushima comes pretty close to it. From the combat to the characters, cinematography, and world building, there was so much love and passion put into this game, a testament to why it's still being talked about 5 years after its release. As you can tell, this is a game I truly love for the passion it brought to the gaming community, and I'm honored to share this with all of you. But tell me, what do you think of the game? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Are you looking forward to Ghost of Yote? And if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like, subscribe, and join the conversation. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.